and a tablecloth and a butter.
And she would say,
knife
no,
and-
no, if we were, you know,
Yeah,
or
she
whatever
would-
we were doing wrong,
Uh-huh.
we were expected to learn how to do things
And
properly.
she must have learned that from her mother and her mother from her mother, so
Yeah.
we were saying that they were a little,
And then there were many years that Lois, our cousin, lived
Yeah.
with us. And of course, the conversation around the table was even more so. And I think
Lois
the
was-
women of this family really enjoyed,
We would sit there for a long
Yeah,
time after
just enjoyed
after
each other's
meals.
company.
yeah.
I remember Dad, particularly my thoughts about him was when we were children, being outdoors, probably on a summer night, and sitting and talking about, the earth and the cosmos and that sort of thing, and he would talk about the constellations
Oh,
and the
yes.
sun and
He was very interested in geology, how the
formation of
formation
things.
of the rocks and that sort of thing too.
I can just hear his voice kind of soft and gentle as they're
Mhm.
talking about these things, and he would instill this kind of wonder about what was going on up in the
Actually, I
heavens.
think he was a more affectionate
Yes, he
parent
was.
than Mother was. Mother was
She was not-
intellectually close, but not physically. She
Not
she
demonstrative.
wasn't one to demonstrate.
I don't
And-
ever remember her hugging me or kissing me.
No.
Ever.
And yet
She
you didn't, it didn't bother you.
No.
Really?
No, that's just
No.
the way we were.
Yeah,
And
uh-huh.
so we were that way too.
Yeah.
And but Dad, I think, would have been more
Oh,
demonstrative
yes, I
if
think
he'd
so.
been given half a chance.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
But Mother was a fun person to be with. She was gay. All our children loved her, and they
Better
just...
watch that term.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. No,
Well,
But she did have spells of the blues. She'd call it the blues. She'd have depression periods. She was sort of up or down. And she didn't know why she would get these spells of depression, but she did, and she had done that all her life. She had been that way.
But she was a person that you always liked to have her in the room. She was...
Good company.
The minute she walked in the room, the room just kind of lit up.
mhm.
Yeah.
She was lots of fun, and all our friends used to like her, and she always professed not to care about boys, but she got along very well with boys.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my friends, her contemporaries, used to sit on her lap, Roy Locha.
Oh, really?
Oh, Roy.
I
Still
forgot
tease
about
Roy about
Yeah,
that
used to
today.
come over, yeah. Uh-huh.
And the things that she would put up with, of course, Dad put up with a lot too, but he was gone at work on weekends, he'd go off in his
Busy,
bedroom.
busy.
But the things that she would put up with that we did, and we had just mobs of kids here all the time. Everybody came here.
Yeah,
We'd
this
roll
was-
back the living room rug, we'd push the furniture back, we'd dance here. We'd make taffy, I remember doing that. We'd
Yeah.
bake cakes, we'd have
and fudge.
8 or 10 or 15 kids in here half the time. We'd tell
Yeah.
ghost stories. I remember sitting around here and
And we played post office.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Spin the bottle.
In the bottle, yeah.
I think it was quite
Very
tame
innocent,
compared to
very
what you might
innocent, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they would spend their time sitting in their bedroom so
Yeah.
that we could entertain our friends out
Playing
here.
Chinese checkers.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And
Another thing I remember about Dad, of course, his feet were built kind of like mine, kind of stocky and everything like that. But I remember him teaching me in the bathtub. He was teaching me how to wash between my toes.
yes,
I
he
mean,
used to
because
give us
our
baths.
toes kind of go together. Some people's toes are more apart. He'd say, now take your hand like this with a little soap and go through your toes. And then he would teach me how to get the ring around the tub.
Clean it up.
Keep cleaning that as the water was going out. But this was something Dad taught me. And I
And he taught us
think
how to
about it.
roll our stockings down so
Oh,
that we could
my.
roll them up over the long underwear.
Yes,
We had long underwear and we
you
turn it
turned
over.
it over and then you
And
pull
then
this
roll
up
up
very
the
carefully.
stocking.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yes, he helped a lot with us when
Oh,
we
yeah.
were little.
He taught us a lot of things.
Yeah.
Well, did he work a lot? Is that?
Oh yeah, he was a full-time worker.
No, I mean, but on the weekends, would he work?
Well,
and
he
work,
brought
or-
home work. He would sit at the dining room table with his
Blueprints
with
and
his
things.
blueprints.
See, it was always
And he
that
would be
type of
kind of
thing.
humming, and he'd have his pipe in his mouth,
Mhm.
and he was in
Mhm.
seventh heaven.
Yeah.
I remember the office downstairs, he retired and was consulting at that time. He
Oh,
had
yes.
a drawing board down there.
Mhm.
No,
Yes,
it was
well-
right on the dining room table at that,
That's
in
where he
the
would
earlier
work.
years. Yeah.
That's where we all did our homework too, on the dining room table.
That's where we did a lot of things.
I remember
We played
when-
games. you know.
Speaking of when he was supposed to
Yeah.
be taking care of us, and one
Yes.
Sunday afternoon, it was rainy and Mother took off. She did once in a while. And I climbed up here on the mantle. We were sitting up here on the mantle, just climbing all over the
I know
place
it.
and he was paying absolutely no attention to us.
I know, why we like to climb on that mantle, I don't know. And we used to walk around the rim, around the outside of the house too.
Yes, oh yes, I remember that.
I remember, I can still see, sitting up there, looking at him and wondering why he didn't stop me from this. But he wasn't
Aren't
very.
you gonna do something like this? How far are we gonna be able to go before this stops?
Right.
Well, of course, Grandpa was older when I knew him, but I remember sort of a real precise in a lot of ways. I mean, I remember building a boat down in his
Oh, well.
shop under the stairs there, and it was much more complicated than I
Oh.
understood it.
Well, that was-
Oh, yes, he did get carried
Yes,
away
and
with.
when we had trouble with math and made the mistake of asking him to help us,
We got a lot more
we
help
got
than
a
we
lot
wanted.
more than we wanted.
You went back to grade 1 and you started to 1 and 1 is 2.
Well, he went on, way beyond us, and we'd sit there for an hour and we still have
Oh, I
no
can remember,
problems.
I can remember tears coming down my cheeks, sitting on the sofa beside him, I think, oh, all I want to know is how to add 3
Most of it
figures.
was thought problems.
Yeah, right.
Oh, those thought problems.
Yeah.
But he had such patience, he would never get unraveled, he'd just,
Mhm.
no, I'll just go over that again.
I can't really remember him getting mad at us or disciplining
No.
us, really.
Well, there was one little episode, and I really can't remember if it was me or Irene that this had to
Did you
do
talk about
with.
the shorts?
Yeah, the
It was
shorts.
me.
Well,
That was Irene and Jane.
yeah, okay, you tell it then,
Well,
because.
it was one of those early, probably March, spring days when the weather turns, balmy suddenly. And a friend of mine had come over to spend the afternoon, and we had apparently had purchased shorts. This was quite a departure from the styles of the day, something that young girls were doing then, but certainly my dad didn't know about that. And we went upstairs.
Halter tops.
Oh,
That
that
was
was
what
that.
it was.
Halter tops, I think
Halter
he did with me
tops.
too.
Yeah.
So we went upstairs and changed. I was apparently had a room upstairs at that time. And we came down, my dad was sitting over here, and I remember we walked right across there, and he took one look at it, and he said, "You girls get back up there and put some clothes on." And that was the end of that. We did it.
He was shocked.
Yeah.
Mhm. And then Grandma, I still remember her, she was into baseball, I remember that was
Oh,
later
yeah,
in
she
her
liked
life.
baseball.
She
but
was the baseball
twins,
thing.
boy.
She could talk about anything.
Uh,
And
Card games, canasta.
she was a great card player. Both of them, they liked to play cards. We played a lot of games at home. We
Mhm.
didn't have
Any game that came out, we
yes,
usually
we,
had.
and we
Of course, everybody did
we
in
played.
that time.
Yes, everybody did. There was in the evenings we'd get together on games and Sunday afternoons and that sort of thing. And then there was radio. We could talk a little bit about radio. We were
Yeah.
before television. There were radio programs that were
Excellent.
very good. There were children's programs that we always listened to.
Jack Armstrong, the All-American
yes,
Boy,
yeah.
and
And
Jimmy Allen.
I remember lying on the floor and listening to the radio program.
And then, of course, we always had to listen to the news at supper time. That came on at 6 o'clock, right when we were having supper, so. Dad
H.B.
would-
Kaltenborn, that was during the
H.B.
war.
There's
Kaltenborn.
good news, bad news tonight,
Yeah.
night or something.
No, that was Fulton Lewis, wasn't that his
I
name
don't-
that said
I
that?
thought it was Kaltenborn, but,
It's-
I suppose we should talk a little bit about the war years, too.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
because.
How old were you guys when the war broke out?
Well, we were different ages.
I was just out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
I was in 1941. I was working for grain company, and we went down to watch the pit, the floor, the
Yeah,
grain
they
exchange,
closed, yeah.
at the grain exchange. In the first few minutes of
Must have been Monday.
Monday after the war, the prices went up, the whole,
You mean, oh, yes, the
all
grain,
that it
grain
could.
exchange,
There
yeah.
was at the grain exchange,
Uh-huh.
on
Was this after December 7th, are you talking about?
after
or-
December 7th.
It would have been the 8th.
Yeah.
Well, yes, it would have been the 8th. December 7th is another one of those days where everybody remembers what they were doing when they first heard about it. And that was in the morning, on Sunday morning. And I remember Lois called us up. She was living up the street a ways. And I answered the phone, and she had heard it on the radio. We hadn't had the radio on. And so then, of course, we turned on the radio and listened all the rest of the day, just like we do now with television.
They didn't have CNN then.
No,
No.
we didn't have
No,
CNN.
no. I remember the next day when President Roosevelt gave a speech, you know, declaring war. I was still in high school. I was just about ready to graduate. And they just had the radio sitting up on the stage, and we all came in from every place. And I had been in the library, and I was at the same table as two fellows, Paul Odell and Jim Meyer. They were both presidents of their class. Jim became president of his class, which was in June, and Paul was the president of our class. And I sat in between these two boys, listening to this, you know, thing, and we were all lamenting and everything. And both of those boys were killed in the war. And if I'd known that at the time, you know,
Yes.
it would have been so scary. But they were such outstanding young men, both killed in the war.
Oh. Well, everybody went to war. It was a complete commitment on everybody's part, the war. And
People would fake medical records so they could get in, even if they had
Yeah,
something
that's right. They felt
wrong with them. They would try to conceal it so they could get in, because nobody wanted to be left out. It was entirely different. It was a total way of
Total
life.
war, yeah.
Morning, noon, and night, you were totally absorbed with being a part of a war.
yeah, and the war effort, and it affected us at home a lot in that the shortages and well, the whole life was different. And of course, one of the shortages was men. We didn't have any
Definitely.
dates.
And that was when Rosie the Riveter came into her
Yeah.
own. Women went to work in the factories, and it was the beginning of the women's liberation.
Yeah.
Yeah, in many ways it was. Yeah.
We
We had coupon books where you could buy just so much. Each person was issued a coupon book, and you could spend so many red ones for the meat, and there were blue ones for other
And there were shoe
groceries.
ones. You could
There
only
were
buy
shoes.
shoe
Yeah, you
coupons.
could only buy
a certain number of
so many shoes,
butter and sugar,
and there were shortages and coffee.
coffee,
Coffee was a shortage, and
a lot of fabrics.
yeah. and
Nylon was
There are
non-existent.
nylons, of course. The nylons hadn't been in all that long,
No, just
but
barely.
they were gone, and once in a while they'd have them for sale, and the word would get around. David's have got
Lines
nylons,
of
and
people
there'd be
waiting.
long lines waiting.
Don't forget Lucky Strike Green went to war.
Yeah.
Lucky
that's
Strike
right.
Green went to war.
There's something about the green dye, they used it in the fatigues.
Oh,
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and they used to, all the packages used to be green packages of cigarettes.
made 'em
And then
white.
they
Then they
Were
That
white
was their
after that.
slogan, Lucky Green went to war.
Well, I remember the stripe was red. Was that always red, or
Yeah,
what
There
the
was a-
package
there was a-
around it was green?
It was
Uh-huh,
green,
right.
yes,
Mhm.
but they never went back to that.
and of course the marriages that took place, there were so many people going off to, you know, overseas and that sort of thing. There were many marriages that nobody else got to, but just the couple themselves. That was Harold's and
Mhm,
my
mhm,
wedding.
mhm.
And we were married in 1943, and we had started dating and going together in high school in 1940, late 39. We probably would not have been married that soon because neither of us had a very good
Okay.
job at that point. But like many other couples, we were married before we went overseas. And I
Mhm.
became a camp follower.
Camp follower.
This is what all the girls and the wives did. We just, when they had a stand out, when we joined them at the camps, and lived under awful conditions and awful rat holes. Just can't imagine. I mean, you just call them unlivable places that we lived. And
Well, they really didn't have very many livable types of places like
No,
that before the war
they
either,
didn't.
because
No,
the
they didn't.
Depression had been such a long
That's
time.
right. They
So-
converted garages, and they
Oh.
talk about chicken coops, and I guess it's true.
Probably
They
did.
converted chicken
Yeah.
coops and everything else. One of the places that I lived in for months and months with another couple was probably about the size of these 2 rooms, if that large. I don't even think it was that large. No closets or just.
Just a shell of it.
It was
We
really.
visited
It was
them
like the
there.
inside of a garage.
Fipsado Court
No
Where?
bathroom, of course.
Where was it?
in Oregon,
Oregon.
Medford, Oregon.
You
Yes,
had to walk
Medford,
about a
Oregon.
block to the bathroom.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
as far as across the street
Mhm.
Yeah.
to the bathroom. We had a little 2-burner hot plate and a little pot-bellied stove that you had to feed with wood to keep it warm.
And then
And
they
there were
had-
2 beds
Yeah.
and no chairs. I think we sat on the bed.
They
That
were
was
both
it.
newlyweds.
That was it. There was no other furniture, none at all. And
Just a
so
little
we were,
partition
the 4 of
between
us
the
were
two
in the
beds.
same room the whole time.
Intimate.
Yes, we got to know each other quite well. We still are very close friends with this couple. We have more fun laughing about it. They live quite in the lap of luxury today, and we just have lots of fun chuckling over this.
Well, it seems like the time must be up.
Oh, it's kind of fun.
Yes.
Well,
Let's see
I
now,
suppose-
what else? Well, we haven't talked hardly any about Lois. She was such a, I mean, she was just like
We got a picture
one of
of
the
Lois?
daughters. Did you do something on, well, we spoke.
said
No,
got a
we have a
picture of
picture of Lois.
Oh, do we have a picture?
No, we don't
you
right here.
But anyway, Lois was,
Anyway, she was a very remarkable
she
person.
was Emma's daughter.
Emma's
who was
daughter and
Grandma
our
Mabel's
first cousin, yeah.
She was like another sister to us. She was just a year older than I was. And really my best friend, I would say, all the years I knew her.
And she got what, polio?
She had polio when she was about 4.
Oh, that young.
And in those days, no Sister Kenny, they didn't know what to do. And they did everything they could do, her parents did. But there just wasn't anything. She had several operations on her foot. Her foot was affected. Her foot flapped, you know, it
Drop
didn't.
foot kind
And
of. Drop-
so
drop
they
foot.
had to operate so that it would stay up so she could walk.
Mhm.
But they didn't realize right away that her back was affected until, you know, the muscles
grow, right.
didn't, weren't even, so gradually her spine became curved.
Mhm.
But she was such a cheerful person. She took it and she made a life for herself that was really remarkable.
Well, she had a hard life. Didn't her dad tell the story about
Her
Emma
father,
and the
Yeah.
But it
daughter?
all happened at one time, yeah.
When did it, what happened there?
they went down, she was 7 at the time, and they had heard about a specialist in St. Louis that was supposed to know what to do about her condition. So Dick and Emma and Lois went down there on the train. And while they were on the train, Dick accidentally sat down on Emma's purse, and he broke the mirror in the purse. And they said, oh, that means 7 years of bad luck. Well, they had bad luck because they got down there. Lois got sick and they decided it was scarlet fever. And in those days they quarantined for scarlet fever. So they put her in the hospital in isolation and wouldn't let her parents even visit her. They had to wave at her through the window outside. This was in March. And either Dick caught a cold that way or else he got pneumonia some other way, but he caught pneumonia and he died in a very short time.
Down there.
Down
there.
there,
Mhm.
and here Emma was with her husband dead in a strange city and a sick child, and
The Shriners,
It was the women's,
it was the Shriners.
Well,
well,
what?
yeah,
The
but
Shriners did
The
that?
Shriners,
They
she-
helped her?
that's what was my understanding. But they just took over and she said that she couldn't have done it
Well,
without that.
he was a Shriner,
Yeah.
but his stepfather, John Palfrey, came down there and made the arrangements and brought her back. But that was
well,
hard
and
times.
the Eastern Star ladies, I think, did a lot for
Yeah.
her because I know she felt that they were a big
Yeah.
help for
Yeah,
her.
yeah.
Yeah.
They would be the wives of the.
Mhm.
But he was only 39 years old at the time.
Mm.
And so Emma, as a result of that, really had a big struggle the rest of her life,
Mhm.
really, didn't she?
Yeah, she
In
did,
order to
because-
keep things going.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because she
She
had
had
a
to-
college education, but she could teach. But there weren't that many teaching jobs available.
It was a
That was
small
during
town,
the war.
yeah.
What did she do?
Right after.
Oh, she was a library, a librarian, I guess you might, 'cause she worked in the library there, and she sold tickets for the movie show. And
Extra.
she-
But that was
you know,
after,
all these
yeah, but
things.
first,
Oh.
shortly after he died, she rented out the farm because she couldn't handle the farm herself. And she came down here and they lived with us. And she went to secretarial school and Lois went to Dowling School for the crippled children. And they lived with us for I don't know how long. And then finally they got an apartment down on 28th and James. And Emma tried several things, but she couldn't get a job. By that time, it was the Depression. And they finally decided that they could live cheaper back in Hope and take care of Grandpa.
He was getting older then too, so.
Yeah, Grandpa was getting older.
And then Lois was a commercial artist
Yeah,
for Dayton's, right?
she got a scholarship from the for handicap, and so she went to school at the Minneapolis Art Institute, and became a commercial artist.
Yeah, I
Worked
think
for
I remember
Dayton's
about
for
her,
many
she was so
years.
interesting, I mean, she was,
Well read.
know about everything.
She was very well read, very, and lots of fun. She
Mhm.
really was
Mhm.
a fun person to be with. She was
Mhm.
an interesting person.
Mhm.
We always had good times with
And
her.
how she loved Fred Astaire.
And she
And
loved.
Bing Crosby.
Yeah,
Her two
But
favorites.
especially Fred Astaire, I think
Mhm.
that was
The dancer.
yeah.
Yes, he could.
In fact,
She was-
even today when I watch a Fred Astaire movie, I always
You always think of
I always
Lois.
think of
Right.
Lois.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, she liked dancers, you know, that was something she
Something
couldn't do.
she couldn't do, right?
Yeah.
I remember her walking with the one hip so high, you know, and she
Oh.
resting her arm on.
Yeah, almost,
Right.
yeah, right. Mhm.
We had lots of fun together.
Yeah, I would say she was really more like a sister than she
Oh,
was
yeah.
just a
Oh,
cousin.
she was
Yeah.
to me, yeah.
Mhm.
I still think of things that I'd like to talk over with Lois.
Mm-hmm.
Off, any last words? We'll go one by one. Marge?
No, all I can say is I've been very happy to be a part of this family because I think it's a great family. And I
Mhm.
hope my kids will be glad that this family was part of their heritage.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if I can add anything to that. It was
Yeah.
well said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was very well said.
Any words for the posterity?
Have fun.
Yeah, it's the things you didn't do that you regret
How
rather than
true.
the things you did do.
That's
Yeah.
true.
And so, if you want to do something, do it.
Okay,
And think about all of us once in a while and chuckle.
then chuckle.
Because we had a good life.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.